As millions across the country gather to celebrate Juneteenth, honoring freedom, resilience, and Black excellence, there's a side of the story that too often goes untold, a side shrouded in silence, buried beneath banners and cookouts. Because behind the barbecues and the parades, there was betrayal. Behind the freedom, there was a lie. For over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, hundreds of thousands of Black men, women, and children remained enslaved, knowingly kept in bondage by those who saw profit in their pain. No justice, no arrests, no reparations. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the true crime side of Juneteenth, the cover-ups, the silence, the stolen time. But before we begin, if you care about truth, justice, and untold history, subscribe to Cold Crime Diaries and hit the bell so you never miss a story that challenges the narrative. This is a story they don't want you to remember, but one we must never forget. Welcome to the true crime side of Juneteenth. Delayed freedom, hidden injustice, and the lies that kept Black people enslaved. The sun was merciless over Galveston, Texas, on June 19, 1865. The Gulf breeze rolled in off the coast, warm and heavy, as if carrying a message no one could quite hear yet. But that morning, a Union ship approached the harbor. Its deck was packed with soldiers, faces stern, boots thudding across wooden planks, as they prepared to land. A different kind of battle was about to unfold, not one of bullets, but of truth. General Gordon Granger stepped onto the shore with order number 3 folded in his pocket. Behind him, 2,000 Union troops stood ready, but they were not met with cheers. No parades, no embrace. For many in Texas, especially the enslavers, this was a day they had worked to prevent. For others, the enslaved, this was a day they didn't even know they were waiting for, because the truth had been hidden from them for more than 2 years. Across the plantations, the cotton fields stretched for miles, still buzzing with the cruel rhythm of forced labor. The proclamation that was supposed of freedom had already been signed by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. But in Texas, it may as well have never existed. The enslaved were kept in the dark, held hostage not just by shackles, but by silence. Their freedom was law, but no one had told them. Slavery didn't linger by accident. It persisted by design. As the general's voice echoed through the streets of Galveston, reading out the proclamation that all slaves are free, the reaction was far from immediate. On some plantations, enslavers told their workers it was a lie. Others packed up what they could and fled into neighboring counties, desperate to maintain control. Some even moved deeper into Mexico to avoid the reach of the Union altogether. It would take weeks, months, for the message to filter out to plantations and cabins. And even then, for many, freedom was declared long before it was granted. A man named Elijah stood barefoot near a river's edge, chopping wood. When he first heard the whisper of it, "We free now." He paused, mid-swing, his fingers trembling around the axe. He didn't believe it. He couldn't. His father had died in bondage. His mother had disappeared in Georgia, sold before Elijah could say goodbye. And now, someone was telling him he was free? He looked up toward the big house where his master lived, still sitting comfortably, still counting profits from Elijah's back. If freedom had come, why hadn't anything changed? This was a reality for thousands. The Emancipation Proclamation may have been the law of the land, but Texas was lawless in its defiance. Plantation owners knew they had lost a war, but they refused to surrender power. In the years between 1863 and 1865, they clung to slavery like it was currency. And for them, it was every day of unpaid labor was money in their pockets. Every silence was a theft of time and dignity. No one was arrested. No one was prosecuted for the delay. What happened in Texas wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a coordinated criminal effort to suppress human freedom. A cover-up on a statewide scale. They didn't forget to tell the enslaved. They refused to. And even after General Granger's arrival, freedom came with fear. In some towns, newly freed black people were hunted. Families were torn apart not by whips, but by bullets now. Black men were lynched for walking off plantations. Black women were harassed for wearing colors once reserved for their mistresses. Children were told to go back to the fields or starve. Freedom was a word that didn't match the world they still lived in. In the quiet of the summer night, a woman named Miriam clutched her baby to her chest. Her husband had been missing since the announcement. The last she heard, he had tried to leave the McAllister plantation and was never seen again. Whispers said he'd been shot and buried in a shallow grave near the edge of cornfield. But no one dared look. Miriam didn't cry. She cried enough for 10 lifetimes. All she did was press her child closer and hum a song passed down from her mother, a tune that spoke of escape, of hope, of rivers that led north. Freedom was here, they said, but freedom didn't stop the nooses from tightening. Still, the black community began to gather. In fields and under trees, they sang and prayed. They cooked what little food they had and told each other, "We free now." Whether or not it felt real, they said it aloud, because saying it made it possible. Saying it made it true. That first Juneteenth celebration in 1866 wasn't just a holiday. It was an act of defiance, a refusal to forget. Yet the story of Juneteenth did not spread nationally. It was buried. Textbooks skipped it. Politicians ignored it. The federal government offered no reparations, no justice, no memorials for those who died in the 2.5 years of illegal captivity. And so, the people did the remembering themselves. In Houston, black families pooled money to purchase Emancipation Park, a rare place where they could celebrate safely. They wore their best clothes, read poems, gave sermons, and taught their children the truth. They knew that if they didn't preserve the memory, America would erase it. And for a century, it nearly did. Fast forward to the 20th century. As the nation industrialized, black communities faced new forms of bondage. Segregation, prison labor, disenfranchisement. The 13th Amendment had outlawed slavery, except as punishment for a crime. That single clause became the foundation of mass incarceration. And yet, Juneteenth survived. A grandmother named Essie in East Texas made her life's mission to teach children about it. She told them how her great-grandmother had been freed on June 20th because their master waited another day before telling them. She told them freedom came late and came cruel, and they had to hold on to it for dear life. By the 1970s and 80s, Juneteenth was a recognized holiday in some black communities. But nationally, silence. It was viewed as regional, niche. Politicians paid it lip service. If that, then came George Floyd. In 2020, after his murder at the hands of police was caught on video, America erupted in protest. Streets filled with chants of no justice, no peace. Black voices demanded more than apologies. They demanded recognition, not just for Floyd, but for centuries of buried injustice. And once again, Juneteenth rose from the soil. A wave of petitions swept through Congress. Activists demanded Juneteenth be made a federal holiday, not just as celebration, but as acknowledgement, as a line drawn in the sand to say, we will no longer allow this nation to forget what it did. In 2021, President Joe Biden signed the bill into law, but the victory felt complicated because even now Juneteenth is being sanitized, made safe for corporate branding, turned into sales events, plastered on banners without any of the weight of its truth, and many states still don't recognize it as a paid holiday. In some, Juneteenth events have even been targeted by threats, violence, and hate. In 2022, a street concert in Washington, D.C. turned tragic. A teenager, Chase Poole, was gunned down during an unregulated Juneteenth event. In 2023, a mass shooting in Willowbrook, Illinois left 23 people injured and 1 dead at another Juneteenth gathering. Violence haunted the holiday once again, not just from the shadows of the past, but from the headlines of the present. And yet, the people still gather. Because Juneteenth isn't just about what happened. It's about what didn't happen, the justice that was never served. The reparations never paid. The slaveholders never prosecuted. The lives never mourned. It is a celebration of freedom, yes, but also a reminder of how long that freedom was stolen and how easily it could be stolen again. In today's America, where books are being banned, where Black history is being erased from curriculums, where voting rights are under attack, and mass incarceration still devastates families, Juneteenth remains relevant, not as nostalgia, but as a reckoning. It says, "We remember what you try to hide. We are still here." The true crime behind Juneteenth is not just a delay of freedom. It's a conspiracy of silence. It's a deliberate, sustained campaign to keep people enslaved by law, by lie, by omission. But the story didn't end in 1865, and it still hasn't. Because every time a child learns about Juneteenth and understands its pain, every time a community gathers and says the names of those who never got to taste freedom, the lie weakens, and the truth survives.